I've always thought that I had a good sense of right and wrong. That doesn't mean that I haven't done a few mean things in my life. One of the cruelest things I ever saw made me do one of the cruelest things I ever did. I was popular in high school, but not ready for a steady. There was a group of girls, the in crowd, who could best be stereotyped as a mutual admiration society. One of my best friends has a sister, Linda, who was trying hard to get into that inner circle. I was a senior and she was a junior. Every day I'd watch Linda trying to be cool enough to be accepted. One day it appeared to work. Linda was beaming, but it didn't last. The group had schemed to have a boy embarrass her terribly. They were so proud of themselves. It made me sick. As prom approached, I asked Linda to go with me, but only if she kept it quiet and explained to her my reasons. I then asked the alpha girl of the cool kids group, Stacy Gibson, to prom. She was a pretentious know-it-all. Since she had recently broken up with boyfriend number 10,000, she was thrilled to have been asked. Stacy was too ill to attend prom as a junior, and now, being a senior, it would have been beneath her to have to ask someone to take her. Prom would not be something Stacy ever got to experience. The night of prom, Linda and I had a great time. When Stacy did show up, security had to call the police. She was suspended for 2 weeks and lost a scholarship because of that. Even her last ex-boyfriend came to her defense. Oops, my bad, I forgot. Stacy was also expelled from the cool kids group. I made a point to lecture Linda about being herself and having her own set of morals. Have people like you because of who you are, not who you hang around with. I live by that code myself. I met Rachel at a freshman social held by a fraternity. She was being recruited to join a sorority while I was being pressured to join this fraternity. Having been raised in the country, my social skills hadn't been refined to the collegiate level. We raised cattle and farmed enough alfalfa to feed them. My after-school agenda had me doing chores at home. At this party, there were several people behaving inappropriately. I've always felt that I had a good moral compass, and this seemed wrong. Talk about an eye-opener. Although invited to join in, I declined and made myself scarce. I was in a daze as I started walking back to my dorm. "Hey, wait up!" slowed me down. The young lady catching up to me was Rachel. "Too wild for you too?" If the truth be known, yeah. I'm Kyle, and you are beautiful. I'm Rachel, and you're full of nonsense. To say we clicked is an understatement. By the end of our freshman year, we were engaged. No date had been set, but we knew it would happen. Rachel was taking the necessary classes needed to become an elementary school teacher. I was hoping to land a job in accounting. A few weeks into our courtship, I learned that Rachel had an identical twin, Rebecca. Rebecca decided she wanted to separate their lives and chose a different university. Rachel talked with her at least twice a week. In the summer after our junior year, Rachel and I married. Our final year of schooling flew by. Finishing college in 4 years was a feat in itself. After all 3 of us graduated, Rebecca became Mrs. Gary Sawyer. It took a little luck to find jobs in the same city for both Rachel and myself. The employment gods were smiling at us. Not only did we find jobs, they were near the city where Rebecca and Gary lived. Now, Rachel and Rebecca could not only talk a few times a week, but we were getting together with them about once a month. It really is remarkable how they look, sound, and move the same way. Gary and I get along great. Rebecca flirts a lot. Rachel teases me. Remember, she's the one wearing a pink blouse. Rebecca loves pink, and I don't. You better not forget that, Buster. Both Rachel and Rebecca are intelligent and confident. They can do point-counterpoint debates with gusto. It was mid-May, a month shy of Rebecca's first wedding anniversary when her world came crashing down. The doctors still aren't sure why, but one morning Rebecca awoke and didn't know who she was or where she was. Gary denied that they'd abused recreational substances. I have my doubts. After a week of observation, Rebecca was transferred to Pleasant Memories, a mental institution. Rachel took it hard. Her best friend and lifelong support line was gone, not physically, but mentally. Near the end of summer, Gary filed for divorce and moved away. Rebecca's condition wasn't complete amnesia. She remembers lots of things, but most days just not who she is or where she is. If there is a pattern, I think it's that Rebecca will assume the identity of whoever she dreamt about the night before. She can be a newscaster, a politician, or even Rachel or their mother, Mary. On occasion, she'll even assume the identity of her doctor or nurse. You just never know what to expect when you visit her. There's been a few times she's actually been Rebecca. Mary is divorced, and when Rachel became pregnant, she relocated to be near not only Rachel and her grandchildren, but also Rebecca. She has a boyfriend, Ray or Ron or Rob or whatever. They don't last long. Mary goes through them about once or two a year. Thankfully, in our country, being confined to a mental institution is covered by national health care. There's no way Rebecca or her mother could absorb the cost of the care that Rebecca is receiving. Every other month or so, Rachel and I will check Rebecca out and take her to the zoo or an amusement park. Mary checked her out a few times but quit when Rebecca escaped. Rebecca went missing for 2 days before the police found her. It devastated Mary. Even though it was Rebecca institutionalized, Rachel gradually changed, and not for the better. The sniping and sometimes outright disdain towards me was very new in our relationship. Rachel and I have been married for 6 years now. Daniel, our oldest, just turned 4, and David celebrated his 2nd a month before that. I have to admit that raising boys is not for the squeamish. They have a ton of energy and a knack for pushing things to the limit. Don't get me wrong, I love them to death. It was a Thursday, which was also day 2 of my 3-day seminar. Before heading out to dinner, I called Rachel to see how things were at home. I called her and asked, "Hey babe, how was your day today?" She replied cheerfully, "Very good, lots of good discussions back and forth. Anything newsy at home?" I smiled and said, "No, just finished feeding the boys." They're parked in front of the television watching their favorite movie. Headed to dinner? "After we hang up," she answered. "Tomorrow, I should be on the flight that leaves at 3. That should get me home by 7. Give the boys a hug and a kiss from me." I teased her. "And none for me?" "Excuse me." With a playful tone, she said, "I was getting to that. For you, a really naughty hug and lots of kisses." "That's better," I laughed. "Love you. See you tomorrow night." "Love you too." "Good night," she replied, and the call ended. About 15 minutes later, my walk to the restaurant was coming to an end. I didn't make it before Mary called. "Kyle, thank goodness you answered. I tried Rachel's cell phone, but it went straight to messages. If it wasn't important, I wouldn't have disturbed your romantic getaway with her." Daniel and David were running around my living room when David tripped and hit his head against the corner of the bookcase. I think it may need stitches. It was bleeding fast, but I've got it slowed down to a trickle. What should I do? I was confused. Rachel certainly made it sound like they were at home. What romantic getaway am I supposedly on? "Slow down, Mary. Rachel dropped the kids off and you're looking after them?" "Yes. She dropped them off around 2 this afternoon. They're spending the night, or were until this happened." "Thanks for calling, Mary. Take them to Summit Hospital over by the highway. Ask for Jana Fields. She's my sister and works the swing shift. David will be in good hands with her. If they need insurance information, you can give them my cell phone number. It will take a few hours to get there, but I'm leaving now." "Okay, Kyle, I'm so sorry." "Mary, don't be. Boys that age have lots and lots of energy. It was an accident. How's Daniel handling it?" "He was fascinated with the blood on the carpet. Other than that, he seems completely unfazed." That brought a smile to my face. It really is different raising young boys. The waiter led me to the table I was supposed to join for dinner. Thankfully, I found someone I worked with. It was easy to explain why I was headed home for a family emergency. Booking a seat on the next available flight, I grabbed a taxi and left for the airport. How should I handle this? Rachel obviously lied to me. It certainly sounds like she won't be home when I get there. Or will she? Looks like she has a lover. Is she bringing her lover over to our house? I recruited my neighborhood friend's help by sending him a text. Steve, could you swing by my house and see if anyone is home? Thanks, Kyle. Good timing, as I just left work and am about to reach our exit. A few minutes later, house is dark. No sign of anyone home. I hope this isn't what I think it is. I wish it wasn't what I think it is. I'm there for you, bro. Thanks. Appreciate it. Mary was still at the hospital when I called her back. Daniel was flirting with the nurses and David was restless but showing no signs of a concussion. After a quick update about my projected arrival time, we agreed that I'd meet her at the hospital, or her house, depending on whether they released David. The flight itself went smoothly. Not so much for me. My emotions swung from borderline maniac to tearfully sad. When we landed, I touched base with Mary. She said they were still holding David at the hospital. When I arrived, I found a distraught mother-in-law and a sleeping 4-year-old. Thanks so much, Mary. If Rachel left anything with the boys, I'll pick it up tomorrow. Are you sticking around or heading home? I think I've had about as much fun as I can stand for one day. Let me know what happens with David. Where's Rachel? It's a long story, Mom. The doctor's orders were for David to be held overnight as a precaution for a possible concussion. He hadn't shown any of the severe signs, so that was a good thing. The nurses gave me some blankets and pillows for Daniel. Earlier in the evening, he'd charmed his way into their hearts. I wasn't going to leave David's side. Jana dropped by after her shift and filled me in on David's prognosis. 2 stitches and a possible concussion. There was no activity on my phone from Rachel since I'd spoken with her earlier. I mulled over the possibility that I was completely overreacting. There was no way this was something innocent. I decided to have a little fun with Rachel by sending a text. While you were doing things you aren't likely to admit to, with someone who you aren't likely to expose, your son, rest his soul. Sorry, I can't bring myself to say it. Anyway, I'm taking care of making the arrangements. Don't bother coming home. The easiest way to handle the credit cards was to report them as lost. New ones will be sent. I'll have to move fast in the morning to secure the banking accounts. Rachel isn't likely to know about the brokerage accounts without access to the paperwork at home. I was able to get a few power naps. David had an uneventful night, and all we were waiting for was the floor doctor to approve his release. The morning shift nurses fawned over both Daniel and David. The boys milked it for everything they could. I called Mary and let her know David was doing great. At 8:10, my cell phone buzzed. Rachel had finally turned her phone back on. Let her bother her mother. I let it go to messages. In a perfect world, I would have taken David home before Rachel arrived. As I learned yesterday, I no longer lived in a perfect world. Hearing Rachel's voice down the hall caused my stomach to clench. Where is room 318? I blocked the doorway. Rachel's eyes were red and puffy. She stopped in her tracks when she saw me. My fists were clenched and my eyes were cold. In a quiet voice, "How's David?" "He survived your night of betrayal." "I'm sorry, Kyle." "Oh, nonsense, you're not sorry. Give me a break." "Where's Daniel?" Before I could respond, I heard David behind me. "Mommy! Mommy!" "Please don't kiss him with your lying mouth," as I stepped aside. I'm not a violent person, but my mind was swirling with hateful thoughts. What did I ever do wrong? As Rachel was cuddling David, Daniel returned from his breakfast date with one of the nurses. "Mommy, David was bleeding and it got all over Grandma's carpet. It was so cool. I slept here last night with Daddy. I had cookies for breakfast." This is just absolutely great. I'm going to be a part-time dad. The game is stacked against men. The first thing I need to do is figure out how to get the kids home without Rachel tagging along. The doctor swung by just after 10 and gave David the green light to go home. If he shows any signs of being disoriented or becomes nauseous, get him back in and quickly. We got everything taken care of and we're heading towards the main entrance. "Rachel, Since your car has the child seats in the back, go get it." She didn't bat an eye. The boys and I headed up to the nursery on the 5th level. My phone started buzzing a few minutes later. Somebody wasn't happy. I killed an hour with the boys grabbing snacks from the vending machine. Rather than risk Rachel hanging around my car, I had a rideshare pick us up at the emergency room door. Instead of heading straight home, I went to one of our bank's branch offices. It only took 30 minutes to divide the accounts into two. The boys were busy charming the skirts off of the females in the office. I scheduled another ride. We stopped for tater tots on our way over to Steve's house. I held the driver until the boys were settled in with Steve's wife, Fawn. That only took a few minutes, and then I backtracked to the hospital to pick up my car. Leaving the hospital parking lot, I sent Rachel a text, "Headed to your mother's place with the boys." Hopefully she bites on that and I can get into our house alone. It worked. Before picking up the boys, I'd stopped and bought new locks. Both boys fell asleep with adult seatbelts on. A big fine if I got caught. But I didn't. They were full of energy when we got home. Nothing like a little nap to recharge them. While the boys were watching television and playing with their monster trucks, I set about changing the locks. It didn't take long. Going online, I closed the brokerage account, sending the proceeds to my new checking account. I talked briefly with my parents. Fawn had mentioned that Steve had a friend who was in the midst of getting a divorce. She said she would get me his friend's lawyer's name. That is, if that friend was pleased with the attorney's work. Steve texted me the contact info. After explaining my situation with the attorney, he agreed to drop by the house tonight at 7. My cell phone was buzzing constantly. I knew it was only a matter of time before Rachel was banging on the doors. I was very surprised that she didn't come alone. Mary followed Rachel over. Rachel was pleading her case, quite loudly. "Kyle, this is my house too. Let me in." I went upstairs and opened the bedroom window that overlooked the front yard. "Rachel, you are no longer welcome at this house." "Hi, Mary. Did the little deceiver tell you where she was last night? They didn't even finish until after 8 this morning." Mary spoke first. "Rachel, what's this all about?" "It doesn't matter. This is my house and those are my kids. Let me in now." Mary shot back. "What do you mean it doesn't matter? Were you unfaithful last night?" "Mother, please, I need to see my kids." "I'm not going to help a cheating spouse. Been there, done that. Kyle, promise me I can see my grandkids." "Mary, I would never deny you that. Thanks for your help yesterday." As Mary drove off, Rachel's tears were dripping off of her chin. As she was stomping around, she decided to make a call. About 15 minutes later, a squad car rolled to a stop in front of the house. She spent a few minutes talking with the officer. Her body language told me it wasn't going as well as hoped. One of the officers approached the house. I opened the front door, but left the latch on. "Mr. Wilson?" "Yes, sir. How may I help you?" I asked. "Your wife says you won't let her in the house." "I'm not sure that's my wife. She has an identical twin who is mentally unstable. That woman has been acting unstable. In the best interest of my young children, I think she needs to find another place to stay until we can get this sorted out." After Rachel lost her composure, trying to discredit my story, the police officer blocked her path. Her face was as red as I'd ever seen. For a second, I thought she was going to hit or kick the officer. That would have really worked out well for me. As it was, he escorted her to her car. Not even a minute after she drove away, Rachel called my cell. I decided why not. So I answered it. "Hello? Who is this?" I asked. "Cut the nonsense, jerk. Why are you doing this?" "Why am I doing this? Let's see. Maybe because my not-so-faithful wife spent the night with her lover. I guess I don't know that. Maybe you're a cheap woman and did who knows what all night. I'm sorry you had to find out about it this way, but you don't have many choices. If you divorce me, I'll ruin you financially and do my damnedest to limit your visits with my kids." My head was spinning. Internal rage is a hard thing to control. "I see. Why don't you just divorce me and marry your lover?" I asked. Mick is still in school. Probably will be for another couple years. Then, depending on what his job prospects are, I might consider it. I have needs that you haven't been meeting." I hung up. If she shows up with me in this mindset, I'll hurt her. Walking around like a zombie best described my mental shape. Obviously, I've been living in my own little fairy tale. Reality, what a concept, just burst my balloon. What was somewhat depressing was my attorney's attitude. He even said it, "Yeah, I've seen way too many like this." He explained what I'd guessed. I'm in trouble. She gets alimony, child support, and I have to pay for somewhere for them to live. The boyfriend can move in, and as long as they don't get married, I have to continue all of those payments. What a messed up system. That's when I came up with my plan. "You know," I told my attorney, "Rebecca and Rachel are completely identical, and Rebecca has these episodes where she thinks she's Rachel." He looked at me like I was crazy at first, but then I explained my idea fully. The following weekend, Rachel and I took Rebecca out for the day, as we often did. We fed ducks at the park, had pizza, and I made sure both women had plenty of wine. Rachel's medication mixed with the alcohol worked perfectly. She fell asleep in the car. Once back at the house, I carefully switched their identifications. I gave Rebecca some of Rachel's clothes and told her we were playing a game. Rebecca, in her confused state, was thrilled to pretend to be Rachel. When Rachel was still groggy, I drove her to pleasant memories. The staff knew me well by now. "Rebecca's had a difficult day," I explained. "She thinks she's Rachel again." Rachel was too disoriented to protest effectively. By the time she realized what was happening, the staff had already logged Rebecca back in. With Rachel safely contained in the mental institution, I returned home to Rachel, actually Rebecca, and my boys. The boys were initially confused by their mother's strange behavior, but Rebecca was loving and maternal in her own way. Within days, they adjusted to their new mother. Using Rachel's phone, I sent her resignation to her workplace and a text to Mick saying Kyle knew everything and it would be best if they didn't contact each other for a while. 2 weeks later, I took Rebecca to be evaluated for mental wellness. It was almost too easy. Identical twins, similar symptoms. The doctors concluded that Rachel was experiencing the same condition as her sister. She was assigned to Daydreamers, another facility in a nearby city. Mary was devastated. "Both my girls? How could this happen?" "Genetics," I said solemnly. "The doctors think it runs in families." Mary moved into our basement to help with the boys. Without her knowing, I visited both facilities monthly. Pleasant memories to see Rachel, who everyone thought was Rebecca, and Daydreamers to see Rebecca, who everyone thought was Rachel. Rachel raged at first. "Kyle, you did this to me! I'll kill you!" I would simply smile. "Rebecca, nice to see you again. Sorry Rachel couldn't make it today. She says hello." "They're my kids! Those are my boys!" I would show her videos of Daniel and David. "Look how happy your nephews are." After about a year, Rachel's anger gave way to despair. She handed me a note during one visit. "Kyle, I'm sorry. I had no right to treat you the way I did. I can't apologize enough for my actions. This is probably worse than being dead, but I forgive you. Please don't stop bringing the videos of our boys. Even after all that you've done, I still love you. I hope you can say the same about me. Again, I'm sorry that I hurt you. Love, Rachel." I just smiled and put the note in my pocket. "Rebecca, you're getting better at pretending to be Rachel." Meanwhile, I had reconnected with Stacy Gibson, my stood-up prom date from high school. Now, Stacy Nichols didn't recognize me with my new shorter haircut. We began dating, and I found it amusing that she didn't realize who I was until our third date. "Is your maiden name Gibson?" I asked as we lay in bed. Stacy tensed up. "It is Kyle. Have we met before?" "More than that. I asked you out for senior prom," I replied with a grin. When I saw your name, I almost didn't respond, because I still hate you. But your picture convinced me that it wasn't you. Well, here we are, I said. Stacy and I continued our relationship. She enjoyed my bad boy reputation, especially when I was vague about my criminal past, letting her believe I'd been involved in financial crimes rather than tell her the truth. "Never thought you'd turn out to be such a rebel," she'd say. "I still hate you, Kyle, but you have a nice personality and seem to know how to use it." "As long as you keep acting like you hate me," I'd reply with a laugh. Mary moved into our basement permanently to help with the boys. She visits Rachel regularly at Daydreamers, coming home in tears each time. "She still doesn't know who she is," Mary would report. Sometimes I'd take the boys to visit their mother at Daydreamers. Rebecca would hug them and call them by name, one of her good days, and the boys would be happy to see Mommy acting normal. Every few months, I'd visit Rachel at Pleasant Memories. She stopped fighting after a while. The hollow look in her eyes sometimes made me uncomfortable, but then I'd remember her betrayal and her threats about taking my kids. "The boys miss their aunt," I'd say, showing her new videos. The mental health system, believing they were dealing with identical twins with identical conditions, never questioned the situation. Rachel was trapped in her sister's identity, and Rebecca was receiving the best care possible in a facility where everyone called her Rachel. I never confessed. I never will. The boys are growing up happy and healthy with their grandmother helping to raise them and their mother safely housed in a mental facility. Occasionally, I take them to see Mommy, and Rebecca is always thrilled to see her boys. As for Stacy and me, we're thinking about moving in together. She doesn't mind that I have kids and the boys adore her. Life has a way of working out sometimes. Marriage will never again be something that I'll do. Not many can say they're still dating the girl they asked to senior prom, even if she still claims to hate me. Rachel remains in Pleasant Memories, forgotten by almost everyone except me. And when I visit, I make sure to remind her that this is what happens to people who betray those who love them. Sometimes justice finds a way. And that's the end of today's story. If you enjoyed it, please give this video a thumbs up and drop a comment below. Your support helps the algorithm push my content further. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It really helps me keep creating more stories for you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.